Well, with summer hitting us, what's happening with the water situation? Even in winters, the water tables across major metros of India have dropped to levels which has become extremely worrying both for citizens and for policy makers. But with summers, this problem just becomes bigger and more worrisome. So today in our expert segment, we're going to look at basic things that you and I need to do to save water, and also as citizens and groups come together to make sure our developers implement them as well in every city across the country. Today we have with us Anshuman, Associate Director, Water Resources Division of TERI. He's been working in the water sector since last 14 years and has been a member of several advisory committees as well. Anshuman, thank you very much for joining in. I know, we keep talking about things that we must do to save water. We'll come to that later. But the larger problem, 1 out of 4 questions we get for Bengaluru say recommend a project or a house to me in a locality which doesn't have a water problem, and we are forced to say there is no locality in Bengaluru which will not have a water problem. We look at the reports of Gurgaon and they're scary at just the depletion of this very, very essential resource to live.
Yeah, and I think it's all about planning the entire developmental the plans that we have. The problem as of now is in our planning, it's what we don't or tend to look at is the resources aspects. Do we have the carrying capacity of the resources available in that region where we are actually planning our properties? For example, water. You mentioned about the Gurgaon. The stage of groundwater development in Gurgaon is around 300+%, which means we are taking 3 units out, and while only 1 unit is going down. It's not going to be sustainable. And this is creating a problem of water scarcity. You cannot draw water, and water is not just available.
What do you do? People need homes, and where do you take them? I mean, this is a problem which
we have to take a very coordinated approach while at different levels. At the level of the consumers, the citizens like us, at the level of developers, and at the level of regulators. And all of them have to have a coordinated approach of water conservation, of planned development, and water use efficiency to be taken into account.
Let's start with the regulator. What do you think they should be doing?
I think while steps have been taken to for example take into account the water conservation perspective. For example, rainwater harvesting is now a part of building codes, and several cities and different states have made it mandatory for various areas and locations to be taking up the rainwater harvesting. But besides that, for example, the overdraft of groundwater, it cannot be any more permitted in those areas where we have high scarcity and the water tables are going down. Then there the regulators have to come into monitoring and seeing that it is not violated. Besides also the developers looking into this fact that they have to have a very good site selection, and also the fact that the site should be actually able to take into those kind of developmental plans as far as their availability of the resources concerned, especially water, for example. Now all this,
we don't even do any recycling at all.
In most of the cases, you're right, absolutely. In terms of societies and buildings, this is never a part of the plan, actually, in most of the cases. So I think this has to be taken into account because it's too late now already. And we cannot go on with the way we have been thinking about developmental plans for the resources.
So as citizens ourselves, I mean, I see we are aware of the fact that there is a water shortage, which is the water crisis is looming large. There is a wake-up call, and we've just been flashing all those horrific figures. But as citizens, I mean, in daily lives, first of all, I would think, isn't it important for all of us to find out whether our building itself has rainwater harvesting? To start with that, whether even though it's mandatory, whether it has been done by the developer or the builder?
I think I'll start with a couple of important points to make. It starts first with the citizens and their habits. While we all know what are the habits that we have to take into account, but I'll just enumerate them. For example,
we all forget them. We've got very short-term memory. Believe me.
But for example,
we keep harping about the fact that water is a problem, but we don't do anything about it.
Absolutely, simple things like switching off. Turning off the tap while you are shaving, while you are brushing, and using it efficiently is something where it saves a huge amount of water, 18 liters per minute, for example.
18 liters per minute?
Yeah.
If you just
for a family of 4.
take that 1 second to close the tap while you're
It's
shaving
per
or
minute,
brushing.
I'm saying. So for a family of 4, for example.
Okay.
And I mean, depends on different kind of family size. You have to take into account the kind of water reuse and recycle into play when you are having your wastewater discharge from the your own houses. For the builders, you have to take into account the wastewater recycling, for example. How can you reuse the water? How can you treat and reuse that water into different? For example, you can very well use the water that comes out from the gray, which we use term as grey water from the houses, for uses in the gardening, for example, and landscaping. It can be very easily done, and it's not too cost intensive exercise. Within the households, for example, other thing is how do we prevent leakages? We usually tend to ignore that, and there's a huge amount of losses.
In fact, that is something that Ajay Makan mentioned in his interview. He said Delhi pipes, water pipes, have become so old that there's so much leakage in just the water transportation. And that was something which I was shocked to hear.
Yeah, I don't know if you're amazed or not, but in Delhi NCR itself, the range is around 30 to 50% of
is water
unaccounted
lost during
water.
transmission?
Yeah.
My goodness.
I mean, the unaccounted for water, as it is termed. And it's the transmission thing, but I'm telling you, within the house, there are so many things that we can do within our own, closets and faucets and so on. The other aspect is, we must use the, low flow and water efficient fixtures and faucets, for example. A lot of volume of water is used in households for, kitchen, toilet, and, washing and bathing and all these activities. And using water efficient, fixtures and faucets can reduce a significant volume of water. For example, it ranges anywhere between 32 to 64, 65%. And this is a huge volume of water as far as the daily consumption is concerned. So at the household level, I think we can do all this, from habitual to, some interventions required in some investment interventions. At the society level, I think there are a lot many things that we need to do. For example, I'll start with reducing the building water use. And I mentioned about the fixtures. We can use the dual flush toilet, for example. It can reduce the normal consumption of water from 15 liters to around 6 to 3 liters. And there are now sensor-based, toilets which actually use much less water. And now when waterless toilets are there, and they use biodegradable cartridges. So there is a huge scope as far as the toilet is concerned.
Is it all mentioned on any place on the TERI website which we can
you might have heard about our Griha rating, so many things are mentioned in that, but otherwise also we keep giving these kind of consultations and information to public by and large and different forum. So if anybody is interested, we can provide them at our website as well. I was mentioning about one aspect, but just quickly on the household thing. Low flow urinal, for example, is another thing where you can actually have a huge volume of water saved, as well as the showers and the faucets, for example, on water taps. They all can reduce a significant volume of water if we are using them. Sensor-based water level meters, for example, at overhead tank can actually prevent the water overflowing from the tanks after filling. So these are small things that taken at household level can actually save significant volume of water.
Anshuman, thank you very much. I mean, of course, we keep reading about the figures, we keep cribbing about it, but literally it's a wake-up call ahead of this summer, and that's why we are urging all of you to actually look at just changing your habits when it comes to water usage. Begin there, and then just be very, very conscientious when it comes to how your society, your building, your community is using water. Larger things will happen, and even if they don't, I mean, the number of liters that you spelled out, a family could save 30 liters of water a day if I did the addition, a quick math in my head. Anshuman, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Alright, so those were 10 ways of conserving water. Very practical, very easy, so nothing hard about it to implement.